Sophisticated ignorance.
Oh man, I am still annoyed by the story that I just shared with you. And the audience doesn't know what's happening. I think the context is you just have to be careful with the people you allow around you. That's all I'm going to give, because I mean, granted, I don't think my sister listens to this.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, look, I'm spilling tea. I know my sister doesn't listen to this podcast, but based off the information that I recently heard, I'm very upset and very bothered. And that's all I'm going to say. So.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate.
Shout outs to my sister, but just know that I'm wagging my finger at you, and I'm wagging. And I should be doing more than wagging, but right now I'm wagging. That's all I could do.
We can't get you to wag, so we got to stop it immediately.
What does that mean?
That you're just, shaming your sister right now. Just stop wagging.
I'm not shaming her. I'm not shaming her. She didn't do anything wrong.
So what are you wagging?
Whoops, am I wagging?
I said what? I said
what? I am wagging at the circumstances
Lord.
that my sister is in. And once again, the audience is no context. I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to exert that energy. Just know that I am very ashamed of the current update that I've received about her and her circumstance. That's it. That's all I'm going to give. Well, what did they say on the internet? If you know, you know. There it is.
Yep.
Oh, this is like, what the fuck is this nigga talking about? Look, I don't want to.
Sometimes you just need to talk just to talk. So let it out.
Right.
Let it out. I'm sure they understand. Yeah, just let it out.
And the fact that in the year of our Lord 2021, people still do not believe in this vaccine or believe in COVID boggles the mind. Because if you don't believe in COVID, yet you're taking tests every week out of employment, then is the test a hoax? Or you know that you need your job, so you're just following on protocol, even though you believe that the shit ain't real. Like, make it make sense to me. Because realistically, if you don't believe in COVID, then why would you get a test? Because apparently this thing ain't real. But I'm the fool. Well, anyway, let's just get started, because child, the human race is a mind-boggling place.
The end of days are coming.
Oh, they're already here.
Oh, they're here? My bad. I didn't know Walking Dead was here already. My bad.
You didn't get the calendar invite? You didn't get the iCal? Okay, gotcha. The new season of Walking Dead is premiering live on Earth. So just, you don't need to turn on the TV. Just look outside your window.
I do not recommend. 0 out of 10, okay?
Oh, shit. Oh, man. All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of our podcast, Sophisticated Ignorance. What is good?
Whoop, whoop.
I am Vixon J.
It's your girl, Rovie.
And we are here. We are alive. We are breathing, even though we might be
vaccinated.
Exhausted. We are big vaxxed. There's big vax up in this house, unlike some folks out here. If you're not,
we're not going to shame. Don't shame anyone.
Well, you know what? It's not a matter of shaming. It's just a matter of, and we talked about this on the show. If you are not vaccinated, or if that is your choice, funny enough, I recently was listening to an episode of The Grapevine. The Grapevine is a show that has like a panel style amount of people talking about different topics. And one of the topics that they talked about recently was about vaccine hesitation. And, a lot of people on the panel, I didn't get to listen to the whole thing, but a lot of people on the panel were just talking about their iterations of why vaccine hesitancy is dangerous and a matter of misinformation and all these things. And all I'm going to say is, if you have made the choice that you are not ready for the vaccine, or you're not getting vaxxed at all, so if you're in between vaccine hesitancy and anti-vax period, then you need to be mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with. And you need to be mindful of who you are around in the sense of safety, right? Because there are some people who are very, what's the word? Immune compromised.
Immunocompromised.
There's a lot of people who are immunocompromised. There's a lot of people who have a lot of health issues. There's some people who, have a higher risk of catching something. So if you decide that you're going to trollop the world and not be vaccinated, and now surround yourself with someone else who may not be vaccinated, you are bringing a higher chance of that person that you're surrounding yourself with catching COVID, regardless of if you believe in the shit or not. That's all I'm going to say. So please don't do that. I mean,
we've said this many times before, like it's a choice if you want to get vaccinated or not, but don't put other people at risk. It's like having a gun at someone's head and you have the choice to load it with bullets or not, like at that point, because if you're not being proactive to actually save other people, just for the sake of human decency, and you are out here maliciously trying to be a super spreader, then yeah, shame on you.
At least wear a mask. At least if you don't believe in COVID or whatever the fuck, either stay home or wear a mask when you're outside. I mean, that is the only default answer I have for people. Thankfully, I don't have much people around me who are like on some, I don't believe in COVID because the fuck. But yeah, that's my PSA for today. And yeah, just don't bring that shit around me. Don't bring
you are perturbed.
I am irate. You have no idea. And based off of what I told you, you would be irate too. That's all I have to say. But we're moving on because I don't want to entertain the audience with context that they don't have. All right. Speaking of irate, let's talk about someone that's gotten everyone buzzed. We're going to talk about R. Kelly. And recently, he has been convicted of a whole bunch of crimes. And, R. Kelly has been just a running conversation for the past however much decades between all the things that he's done, especially to little Black girls and other victims that have been affected by his actions. And recently, he has been convicted of sex trafficking and other violations, such as racketeering, sexual exploitation of children, kidnapping, forced labor, and all these things. So, with that verdict coming in, the bigger thing is like, all right, he's going to be finally serving time for his crimes, and justice, some level of justice has been served, in accordance to his victims. But there's one tweet that actually I came across, and there's a lot of R. Kelly sympathizers. I saw a tweet that called them the P Hive, which I thought was very funny.
What is it called?
Someone called R. Kelly supporters the P Hive, and that made me chuckle. It made me chuckle vigorously.
I think in all the years of my life, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Wow.
That's the most ridiculous?
It has me sneezing. Sorry, excuse me.
Because you're allergic to the bullshit.
The P Hive. What? You know what? I'm so mad. Why are... never mind. I'm going off on a tangent.
What? No, go on.
I'm mad because there's so many ways we can be more proactive and creative, and this is the shit that we always come up with.
Look, man, as long as the internet is free, people are gonna make jokes. So there's that. But anyway, so there are a lot of R. Kelly sympathizers, especially celebrities, who feel like he's gotten a bad shake with this whole trial. One of them being Chuck D. And Chuck D recently said, and he's giving context to R. Kelly and his upbringing and how that has affected this whole case. But he says, abusing his youth and addict as an adult, Ike Turner served 18 months in prison. Rick James did similar time. I came out a changed, positive human being. How long should R. Kelly spend in prison? And does a USA system, which that's just not proper English in itself, and does a USA system give a man a chance for a man to change his world around? That last sentence made zero sense. But he's basically saying, does the US system give a man a chance to change his world around, or for him to redeem himself? somebody responded to that tweet saying, from church culture to hip hop, girlhood to adulthood, never once have I known our communities to miss an opportunity to script a man's redemption story at the expense of a woman. So that's really just, the premise of this case, and just like the bigger topic at hand, where it's like, I mean, R. Kelly's a very special case because, as I said, we all know the type of crimes that he's done. There's been documentaries, constant news stories, it's in his music. So
it's been going on for decades now.
Decades, right. So my thing is, it's that, as I said, you have these sympathizers. Even Bill Cosby was another person who came out. Mind you, this is Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, the same man's that has multiple victims, saying that he has, sexually assaulted them and, drugged them and all these things. It's just like, he had the nerve to say that R. Kelly got railroaded in his verdict, which is just the cold calling the kettle black. I mean, or this case, I was going to make a bad joke. Doesn't matter. The point being is, I was going to say it's the pudding calling the kettle.
You couldn't stop yourself. That's another train track. You couldn't stop yourself. I did the.
It's the
it's okay.
Calling the pudding.
All right.
Anyway,
okay.
the point being is, it's just that you have these sympathizers that are coming to R. Kelly's aid. And it's just wild because, R. Kelly could be facing up to life in prison, which rightfully he deserves. And, we take so much. I mean, I guess especially these celebrities, they pacify him and, they talk about redemption, but no one talks about the victims. And I think that's really the bigger point here, is like, why do we do that? Why do we, as this is only be said on Twitter, why do we script a man's redemption over the expense of a woman, or expense of the victims in this case? You can chime in.
I think at that point, because Chuck D, it didn't hit home for him. It wasn't somebody close to home for him. This is why he's not going to defend the victims. It wasn't his daughter. It wasn't his mom, his sister, his aunt, somebody who's close to him. So it did not register with him to say, hey, someone like R. Kelly, who uses his fame, who uses his name to go against impressionable girls and have his way with them and do all kinds of sex trafficking, abusing girls. Of course, when we were younger, we were first exposed to it. I was first exposed to it with Star and Buckwild when they came out with him peeing on a young lady, a 14-year-old girl. And at that time, nobody even took that seriously. And that was a cry for help at that time. And that was it was decades ago. And nobody took that as a cry for help. So in that aspect, I think if somebody doesn't resonate to the victim side, they would never, and they wouldn't understand what a victim actually goes through. And in that essence, this is why it was such a strong outcry of all the victims of R. Kelly to come out with all of these documentaries so they can have a voice and a platform to say what their side of the story was. And it's a significant movement for the Me Too movement as well, too, for Black women in the entertainment and music industry to finally find justice so they can see that their voice means something in regards to someone who has all these accolades, all these hit songs, all this fame, all this money, and the entire team around him. So now is the chance for victims to actually speak up on their voices. And the problem that Chuck D doesn't realize is that there's a victim to victimizer cycle. At the time, he's not even thinking about, all he wants, R. Kelly's been knocking out music and he's the greatest of all time, blah, 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 12th place, up in the name of love, yada, yada, yada. We need to save him. But how can we save somebody who doesn't even know how to save themselves? Not saying it's an excuse for his behavior, but it's like, why are you not seeing anything wrong with what he did? You're not even addressing the actual problem. You're just saying we need to save him because my man's put out hits. Did you miss the bigger issue? Are you pretending to be blind to the bigger issue?
Right. And then that just goes under the category of separating the art from the artist, right? Same thing with Bill Cosby, where it's like, oh, he's Mr. Huxtable. Oh, how are we treating him this way? He was America's dad. And, these allegations are just coming from a malice place for all these victims, all of a sudden coming out and saying the same thing. So Bill Cosby got treated the same way, right? And even people closest to him, came out with the same rhetoric of, oh, well, we just don't know the full story and stuff like that. But then Bill Cosby did his jail time and boom. You know what I mean? So it just comes down to the fact that, even with the evidence clearly being placed in front of people and people, idolizing these type of celebrities, right? R. Kelly's been idolized for so long. And actually, someone recently shared an article with me when it came to R. Kelly about the singer Sparkle. Sparkle is a singer back in the 90s, and she has been whistleblowing R. Kelly ever since, because there was allegations at the time that R. Kelly was sexually inappropriate with her niece. And now 20 some odd years later, it's like, yo, I've been telling y'all. Right. And granted, now, I mean, even, with the concept of Me Too happening within the past 10 years or so, stories about these type of stories are more elevated now than in the past. But it shouldn't take someone coming out with this type of story or coming out with this type of notion years ago for it to now have that type of impact. But unfortunately, I guess as a society, we were prepared to have those conversations, or if the conversations were had, they were pushed under the rug. Everyone had a justification for the person. Everyone went to their defense.
It's funny that you said that it's pushed underneath the rug, because it's the amount of people that were around R. Kelly throughout his entire career who enabled him, and his closest friends would hold, I guess, secrets. Of course they see what's going on behind the scenes. There's no way that they did not know what was going down after a concert or before or whatever it's going on. They saw what he was doing. They probably made some justification to his behavior, and they didn't do anything to intervene about it. And with you saying, Sparkle and her niece saying, oh, look, he's abusing us and the allegations were out there. It's like, historically, every time a Black woman or a woman of color says something about abuse, it seems to always be, ignored, just straight up ignored or disregarded. And any accusation that they bring up, oh no, it's probably not true. But if R. Kelly had touched Becky or somebody in that aspect, just like whole boy Bill, it would have been a bigger riot at a much quicker date. But because this has been going on for so long, it's just like a wound that was not even healed, a non-healing wound. This is going on for years and years and years, with the same women saying the same story, the same setup, the same age range, and nobody believed any of these women of color.
Correct.
At all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, I'm gonna so the article that I was referring to is from The Cut. So I'm just gonna read an excerpt from that article, because you were mentioning, the concept of people not believing her, or just that in general. So I just want to read a quick excerpt. So the interviewer asks Sparkle in the interview, you were ringing the alarm bell for a full 15 years before the Me Too movement, when allegations
15
against
years.
15
I'm sorry.
years. Yeah.
15 years.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you were ringing the alarm bell for a full 15 years before the allegations against powerful men were even more readily dismissed. And she says, it felt like I was carrying this on my back alone. And even when Me Too came around, I didn't think it was for Black women. We're so marginalized. We don't get the same support white women do. We're treated at the bottom of the bottom. Had Robert targeted white girls, trust and believe there would have been an army behind them. So exactly.
Wow.
She said the same exact thing in that article.
I'm floored. I'm on the floor. It's
Because
the truth.
It's true.
It's the truth.
Big facts.
Historically, they don't believe Black women. If we say back in the day, if we're like, oh, Massa raped us in the back, they're not going to believe the Black woman. Like, period. Wow. But I'm just, it's the truth.
No, I said wow because we're about to slavery, but carry
on.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's always slavery.
I'm not always slavery, but historically, Black women voices are not heard. Anything that we try to say or any type of accusations that we're trying to bring truth into light, it's always downplayed. And it's been that way historically throughout time. Right. And to this day, recently now with R. Kelly, like,
yeah, it's a constant struggle. And kind of hearkening back to our episode before when it came to like Lost Girls and stuff, where we saw the disparities between lost Black girls versus lost white girls, and just the general depiction of how missing people of color are seen a certain way versus missing non-people of color are seen a different way. This is the same thing in this case. Like, if all of R. Kelly's victims were white, he would be in jail as we speak. He would have been back in the 90s, and we wouldn't even have this conversation.
There would have been no Chocolate Factory, no Stepping in the Name of Love.
None.
Would have been no Toot Toot, no Beat Beat. And it's sad, he got some hits too. Damn that motherfucker.
And wild enough, I mean, yes, of course he has hits. People with ears are not going to deny the hits. But funny enough, I was actually out at karaoke with some coworkers, and this white guy who was at the bar, he requested an R. Kelly song, and when it came on, me and this other Black guy that was there, because at this point all my coworkers were white, I was the only Black guy amongst the group, but me and this other Black guy who were at the bar was just like, nah bro, you can't do that, like you can't play, like read the country right now, like playing R. Kelly is just not okay, karaoke or not. And the white guy was like, oh yeah, no, but this is a pop, da, da, da. You know how white guys talk, I guess. But ultimately it's like, all right, if that person is thinking that same rhetoric of like, oh well, it's just karaoke, R. Kelly has some good songs, blah blah blah, and not the bigger picture of morally is just not, it shouldn't be okay to like play his music in karaoke form or not. It's just the sentiment of like, hey, this guy has done a lot of fucked up shit, especially to like Black little girls. Like, the notion of you even thinking like, okay, I need to support this guy. Now granted, yes, playing his song in the karaoke bar is not giving him any royalties, because as we have recently learned about Relly, as I call him, his net worth is -2 million and declining. Like, I have more money in my pocket than R. Kelly, and that gives me joy. It gives me joy because he's big broke and mood. Well, for him, that's the mood. But for me, it's just like, even outside of his net worth, it's just the fact that he's been profiting off of his name and stuff for so long, and he has had others, especially our aunties, the Aunt Kellys, that have been supporting him. And I think it's definitely about time that this trial has happened and that he's getting his punishment that he deserves, but also the victims, right? And even kind of going back to this tweet where Chuck T talks about, okay, his redemption and he deserves a second chance, like all these other examples that he gave. Let's think about it this way, right? And this is the thing that people don't recognize. It's like, yes, you advocate that he should be redeemed. At the end of the day, the crime still happened. These victims have still been affected. They have to still live with this trauma. And the unfortunate part about it is that there are some people who, even after hearing this verdict, are not even like overjoyed. They probably, if anything, it probably brings it back to that space where it's like, after all this time, finally this is happening, or B, where it's like, even him going to jail is just not satisfaction enough for what they've been through, right? And we don't factor that in. It's like, all right, we're so concerned about the guy being redeemed. What about the victims? How are they going to finally get over their trauma? If anything, with him facing jail time, is this like the beginning stages for these victims to heal, right? But no one's caring about the victims. They don't care, right? And it sucks because, you know, especially in a high value case with this type of celebrity, you just don't consider everyone else that has had to now come onto the, you know, come on to the court, have to recall their tale, recall their story, rehash and relive all of this shit over again. You know, just to even that, just that rehashing of the events is already traumatic enough. And then you're hoping that your story, amongst others, are going to lead to a conviction, right? Heaven forbid they didn't find him guilty. Can you imagine? So, I mean, we really have to be more mindful of how, as I said, victims of these abusers, how they're affected by these type of cases.
One thing, I think I saw an article or a post or something, and I don't know what you called them, ranties, whatever. It's the older generations who loved R. Kelly. I don't know what you call them. Whatever you call them. You always make up words. I don't know.
I call them Aunt Kellys, but yes, ranties.
Whoever they are. Older women who enjoyed his music during that generation. And yeah, I mean, there was a point in my life that I enjoyed R. Kelly as well.
Of course. I mean, we all grew up in the 90s. I mean, for those who have grown up in the 90s, yes, we have experienced R. Kelly. Hell, my graduation song was I Believe I Can Fly. Half of the country's graduation song was I Believe I Can Fly. So yes, we are not dismissing the fact that R. Kelly had an impact at some point in our lives. That's not the argument here, but carry on.
I was saying I saw one of these pictures of a woman who was distraught hearing the guilty verdict and not distraught for the victims. And it was a Black woman, older, crying her tears out for R. Kelly's sake. And that triggered me because I'm thinking, you know, what if it was your daughter? Or where is the solitude behind Black women, again, not being validated for their truths or not having their voices heard or being victims and not finding any type of resolution? But you are red eyes. You can see the visual tears, the distraught on her face. And of course, that's an opportunity for any camera person to take a photo op of, to see that there is support for R. Kelly, but it is from our sisters, the same ones that he's abusing. How do they not see that there's a disconnect somewhere with that? How do you not have some kind of empathy for somebody who looks like you, who probably goes through the same struggle that you do, and you're still supporting somebody who abuses them? Right.
But to your point, they're not, I mean, yes, they're supporting R. Kelly or they're advocating for R. Kelly.
No, they are. It's a straight support for R. Kelly. It's not for the victim. I need to know if you have an argument saying that they are supporting victims in that aspect, because it does not look so. Sorry.
No, absolutely not. No, they are so caught up with R. Kelly's impact on their lives that they've been blinded to everything else. They've been blinded to the allegations. They've been blinded to the victim stories. This is very similar to Nicki Minaj and Jennifer Powell. Forgive me if I forgot her last name, but this is very similar to that circumstance where there's clearly a story of Jennifer accusing Nicki Minaj's husband for abusing her or raping her, and Nicki and this other dude are now like trying to cover up the story, trying to pay her off and her family and all these things. And she recently went on the Reel to talk about that situation, and the Barbs, who are a fucking cult at this point, went to attack her, right? And my thing is that why are we so quick to shut down other people's stories of being abused because we feel like, or certain people feel like, oh, it's just a ploy for them to get paid or them to get like their 15 minutes. And it's like, no, that's not the story. That's not the case here, right? Like why, I mean, and you know, I feel like certain people are just quick to make the excuse where it's like, oh, that person's just lying because they trying to get ABC, and it's like, no, because they gain nothing. No one, there's no gain for someone.
How is it a lie with multitude? There is too many voices for it to be a coincidence. Like, this is not a just matter of fact thing. And you know what? Even if, a lot of people say, oh, so if that didn't happen, his name is tarnished. R. Kelly's name has never been tarnished, clearly, if you can see. He has still sold records. He still was on award shows, chucking and jiving, doing whatever he got to do, toot and beep beeping, features with Bow Wow and everybody else, all kinds of jack. So he didn't even get a slap on the wrist.
No, he did not. Absolutely not. I just wanted to correct myself. The name of the girl is Jennifer Howe, Jennifer Ho or Jennifer Howe, and she was the one that the people on the Read interviewed. Not the Read, sorry, the Real. Sorry, Kid Fury and Crystal did not interview this young girl. The Real, she was the one that went to Real and had that interview about what Nicki Minaj and her husband were doing. And
I didn't get to see that one.
A lot of people are saying, which I personally believe is true, that Nicki Minaj is purposely trying to deter us from hearing Jennifer's story because she's really just trying to cover up her legal issues. So like the whole thing with that tweet that went, the whole thing with the tweet about her cousin's boyfriend, whatever, is supposed to be distracting us from that legal trouble. And I mean, at this point, it's like I wouldn't put anything past her. Or
I wouldn't either. And that was a brilliant move if that was the case, because that had the other people talking about something else. Why it was like, look over there. Oh, look over there.
Oh, look.
No, look over there.
Oh, look, my cousin's brother's balls. Look at that. Don't look at the allegations. And it's just like, yo, it's just
the buffoonery,
the shenanigans. It's all of it, where once again, these celebrities feel like they're just holier than that,
above it all,
right? Yep. And but the thing is, and I was thinking about this the other day, is it the audience or is it the fans that create this influence for the celebrities, or do the celebrities create this influence that the fans follow, right? Because at some point it's like, at some point it's the audience or the fans themselves who are putting these celebrities on these higher pedestals. So if something does happen, or if there are some allegations of them doing wrong, now everyone is going to advocate for them because these fans, quote unquote, know the celebrity. They would never think that they would do anything wrong. Or is the celebrity creating this stature that now fans are kind of like flocking to? I don't know which one to kind of navigate or which one to kind of lean to.
Or where it begins.
Right. Is it like it's the fans feeding the celebrity, or is the celebrity feeding the fans? Or it's, if anything, it's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
The fans prop up the celebrity, they get bigger. As the celebrity gets bigger, they now cater their image for the fans to eat up, and now the fans are going to believe that and take it all in, and now it just keeps going. So anything that tries to penetrate that cycle is now being rejected. Once again, the fact that Nicki Minaj's fans attacked this girl for her allegations, or attacked her for her story, like, y'all got to be sick. And this is the same thing with these Ronties. That's a trademark. These R. Kelly aunties that are freaking out here defending R. Kelly like a Boondocks episode. I don't know, man. It's scary times. It's real scary times. And I'm just hoping that, what can we do? I'm just hoping to think of like, what can we do to prevent this from happening again? If anything, I mean, thankfully, articles like the one with Sparkle help to bolster the stories of victims, and maybe that just needs to be done more. We have documentaries, we had articles, we had all these things, and people still don't believe that shit. So what do we do?
I think in today's society, I have to say that a lot of people are more vocal than in previous years. Yeah, because back in the day, this would be hush hush. And then that's exactly what went on with R. Kelly. Even if R. Kelly touched you in your no-no zone, he's still R. Kelly. Keep your mouth shut. Like that was the norm. But now people are more aware, especially, the new generation, and willing to speak out and let their truth be known. And, they have different platforms now, social media platforms everywhere. I know right now there's like this big movement with a Grace Kelly song where people are always singing their truths and putting up their words. So like little avenues like that are getting people to speak up more. More people are watching, people are aware. So I am hopeful that in the future, like something like this wouldn't get this far out of control at all, especially for Black women, especially if a Black woman says, hey, look at me, somebody's hurting me. I am being harmed and I need help, that somebody will be listening and saying, I will help you out. You know what I mean? And I was even talking to my mom recently, like, I don't know, it just boggles my mind. Like,
what's your mom's opinions about R. Kelly?
There is still no hold on before we go there. There's still no protection of the Black women. I just recently look at all these news platforms. There are men that just walking and trying to break into women's homes. There's a man robbing a woman in the middle of the street and beating her, and there are nobody protecting us. Like, the people were just standing around. I told my mom no one could even throw a bottle at the guy, even if they didn't want to get shot or something. Or they see a man following a woman home. It's like everybody's just trying to turn a blind eye. And I'm not trying to make it about race, but it is about race.
Yeah.
There's no need to protect a Black woman. There is no utter ounce of step forward and this is why we have to always try to be on the defense. So because we got to protect ourselves first. We got to protect our person.
1,000%. I 1,000% agree with you. So yes, I was trying to ask you just now, what is your mom's thoughts about R. Kelly?
You want a Caribbean woman's perspective, an older Caribbean woman perspective?
Sure, yes. Is your mama Ronti?
I'm going to give just 2 words for you. Bun him.
Oh, okay. I like that. Yep, that's the appropriate answer. That is the number 1 answer on the board. Bun him. Good. I like that. That should be the episode title.
Oh, Lord.
Bun him.
That can be taken in so many contexts, but
yeah, we're not going to.
I'll allow you to have a poetic license.
No, I'm not going to title the episode that. But I mean, okay, well, thankfully your mom has some level of sense to recognize his wrongs and condemn him. But most aunts or most aunties won't think that way. I saw a clip, similar to you, I saw a clip of this woman outside of the courthouse, like saying, yo, free R. Kelly, or let him free, or he ain't do nothing wrong. And she's just screaming to avoid. I mean, there's people out there with her, but she's just yelling to avoid. And I just don't get it. I just don't get how people, especially celebrities, how celebrities are capable of creating such a stature or status for themselves, where they're impenetrable or just, they're just, people just put them on a pedestal where they could do no wrong or harm or anything like that. And it's scary. And, once again, we live in a very social media world. So even to your point where you were talking about how, women coming out with their stories and that this should be heard, and how the internet may adversely react to those stories. Because, there was a movement talking about believe her, especially when it comes to victims of like sexual assault and abuse. And it's like, when someone says they've been through something, believe them, right? But then you always have those outliers who say like, oh, well, we don't know the full story. We don't know what happened. We weren't there. And niggas want to play fucking legal advocates all of a sudden, every time a Black woman especially comes forth with some type of truth. But, even outside of social media, because you have to extract those type of people, but I feel like there are some people who do advocate or do go out their way to help victims in these cases, but you just never hear the side of the victims, but it's not as glorified as the accuser. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
like instead of the news, all right, yes, the news, yes, R. Kelly gets, sentenced and convicted of all these things. Why aren't we bolstering the victims in a sense of like, hey, all right, these victims finally could get a sense of relief or trauma, or if anything, talking to the victims again and saying like, all right, similar what similar to Sparkle being interviewed, and of course this is up to the discretion of said victims, talking to them and getting their thoughts and get their reactions, and if anything, garnering that sympathy for these people who have been affected by this person, right? Why aren't we focusing more on them and more focused on, oh, R. Kelly's going to jail, he's going to spend all this time, and in that time, is he going to come back a changed person? And with that change, should he be redeemed? Like, we're angling this to the wrong person, right? Because at the end of the day, he did what he did. He's going to serve his time, and in jail, people probably won't forget about him, but he's going to be doing his own thing over there. Meanwhile, these victims still have to live their day-to-day lives and try to get over their trauma. So why aren't we advocating for them? Why aren't we sharing their stories? Why aren't we sending them a level of support to where they could heal, right? So I think that's really what needs to be done. We need to shift the focus from the abuser to the victims. And I feel like that's the only way that it would justify, or that, if anything, these victims will get true justice for these type of situations.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I hope so too, because as I said, this society is very unforgiving when it comes to people who have been victims of sexual assault and sexual abuse and rape and all these things. They're very unforgiving because, once again, we want to focus our energies on disproving their stories versus advocating and proving it. So, hopefully all the victims that came forth during the trial, they're able to heal and get some type of closure from this very long chapter that they've had to go through. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the moral of the story is that people should just care more, believe more, and once again, advocating more for victims than, these abusers who don't deserve shit. Bottom line. And as your mom said, bun 'em. That's that. That is it, and that is all.
Yep.
And
sounds like a last word to me.
There it is. There it is. Well, that's all we got on that topic. R. Kelly's gonna spend his time whenever, and that's just gonna be that. And yeah, I have no sympathy. I don't feel sorry, and I can live without "Step in the Name of Love" or "Trapped in the Closet" or any of these songs again. I can live without it. There's other great songs out there and good people. So yeah, for all the Ronties out there and everyone else who is a avid R. Kelly supporter, I'm just going to say that you also believe in Trump and you don't believe the vaccine is real, and or COVID's real. I'm just going to loop them all in the same category because they're all terrorists as far as I'm concerned. And it just circles back to the beginning of this episode.
Oh my goodness. Let it go.
I
like
shan't.
Frozen.
I shan't.
All right.
But that's a nice notion though. It's a nice notion to just let it be, but I won't. I'm going to be big petty. Okay.
Well, if you choose violence like you often do, just carry it with a grain of salt. That's all.
A pound of salt.
All right.
It's a big pound. Anyway, gang.
A pound is only 16 ounces.
Why you had
it can't be a big pound. I'm sorry. I'm a critical thinker. It can't be a big pound.
Have you carried a pound?
A pound. A pound is a pound. It can't be a big pound. It can't be a small pound.
Yes,
all right, forget it. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
nope.
Have you carried around a pound on you all day?
Well, for me, size does matter, but the point is not about me. It's about you understanding the context of what you just said. But
well, I mean, not a literal pound. I didn't mean a literal pound of salt. I'm just meant a figurative pound as it, you know what I'm talking about. You're just trying to make this, you're making this confusing. All right.
I was not. It's okay.
What?
You I'll let you have the last word.
I do not want the last word. You got it.
It's too late. It's too late. Pound cake.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your shirt's giving me. Anyway.
Wowzer. Wowzer. Perfect time to wrap this up. I'm over this right now. Pound cake.
Not me snorting.
It's a snort for me. All right.
Okay. You know what? Forget it. I'm
Yes.
just not snort and not laugh.
At my expense, at least. Anyway, so thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. Make sure to catch us on your favorite podcast platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to also follow us on social media, on Instagram, even though recently it went down. That was a little scary. I know a lot of people were a little scared when Facebook.
I didn't even know it was down. That sucks. That means the amount of time people spend on Instagram is alarming. Alarming.
I know.
I didn't even know it was down.
I know the aunts and uncles were big tight that Facebook and Instagram was, well, WhatsApp as well. The whole Facebook.
WhatsApp, yeah, I got so many iMessages. Now people forgot that they forgot they had iPhones, because I used to iMessage all the time. I hate WhatsApp except for international calls, but everyone in Grenada started sending me iMessages, and I'm like, oh, y'all know this works now on Wi-Fi? This is what I use all the time. Oh, well, yeah, I wanted to call, but I didn't know how to video chat. I said, did you try FaceTiming? Oh, I forgot about that. Everyone is so WhatsApp.
I mean, where are they going to send their sparkly memes now?
I hate that shit. I hate when you send me that fucking forwarded good morning, have a blessed day. I'm not saying I don't want to have a blessed day. I don't want to see that tacky ass text, that tacky ass background, them sparkly ass fonts. Like I hate that. I hated chain messages when I was younger. This is just an updated virtual digital chain message that I just fucking hate. And my mom sends me them sometimes too. And I just curve her and leave it on red because I need you to get to the point, like, I don't want this shit. I'd rather you text me good morning. I hate those forward. And then the thing is with WhatsApp, you see the actual forward on top. So there wasn't even no rhyme or reason to it. You just forward the same bullshit.
The moment it says forwarded.
Sorry, I'm ranting.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
The moment the message says forwarded many times, you already know that shit passed through half the island to get to you. Man,
I wish I could just like block what I can't block family. I mean, I can. Family. I can, but I can't. So it's like,
yeah, I get it. I have,
but don't be fooled. I've left plenty of group chats. So,
oh boy, yeah.
for my peace.
I've gotten many a WhatsApp from a mutual contact of ours. It's an older young woman, young lady that we know. But anyway, it's just WhatsApp is a funny place. Anyway, but yes. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. We're on TikTok as well and other places. And also follow me and Rovie on our social medias, respectively. And yeah, that's it for another episode for us. So make sure to tune in. As I said, we had technical difficulties the other week, but we're back on track. And yeah, we're slowly crawling towards episode 200, which we were going to plan some big things, hopefully. And yeah, we're just excited to reach that huge milestone. And yeah, that's all we got. That's all I got.
Yeah, me too.
Fantastic.
Well, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
This was good. I'm glad I got some things off my chest.
Yes, you clearly had that WhatsApp brain just boiling.
I did not. It just triggered, whatever. I'm triggered.
Funny. All right, y'all. So yes, we will catch y'all next time, and y'all have a great week.
Adios. Walk on the safe side.
Say goodbye, Rovie.
Bye, Rovie.